everybody. Today's question is, how did I stumble into being celibate? Basically, there was a time in my life after I had my third child that I went to have a procedure done, a surgical procedure, so that I would not get pregnant again. And I was not able to go through with that procedure. And after I realized that I couldn't go through that procedure, God spoke to my heart. And He didn't say it to me in a way that was belittling to me. It wasn't a mean voice that I heard. It was just a soft voice, and God knows how to speak to everyone. And what He said to me was, why don't you just keep your legs closed? And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I could do that. Excuse me. So me living a celibate lifestyle was not something that I set out to do initially. I started living celibate not knowing that I was like not consciously aware that I was celibate. But my true decision came after that decision where I could not have that surgical procedure performed, and that was when I made the conscious effort to say, this is the way I'm going to live. Excuse me. Just because I stumbled into the lifestyle of being celibate does not mean that God did not bring this to my attention on many, many occasions. When I would read my Bible, I would come to a certain scripture, which is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 18. And it says, flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a man commits are outside his body, but he who sins sexually sins against his own body. And for years, I would read that and I just kind of want to glaze over it, or I'd want to read everything else, and then I knew like clockwork that it was coming up, and I'd try to skip over it and read something else, or I'd read it and be like, and then I'd close my Bible and I wouldn't want to read anything else. And this was the way I dealt with it for years. So it wasn't as if God didn't always work with me. He always kind of put His finger on that this was my biggest giant that I needed to overcome in my life. There are two things about me. One is I am a creature of habit. The other is I am very strong-willed. And I believe that, well, I know that God knows who I am. And because I am a creature of habit, I just needed to have the mindset to develop a good habit, and then it would be easy for me to follow, excuse me, because I'm a creature of habit anyway. The strong-willed part was getting me to a point in my life where I would surrender my will and say, I don't want to do what I want to do anymore. I want to do what you want me to do, and help me to want what it is that you want for me. This is why it is so important to have a personal relationship with God, because other people can tell you things, but when you have a relationship with God yourself and you hear it from Him, it comes across in a way not like He's coming to get you, but it always comes across in the spirit of love. He always corrects His children because He loves them, and you know that when it comes from God. Excuse me. He was the only one that was very patient with me, and I'm grateful for that. God is the only one that sees our heart, and because He saw my heart, that was why He was patient with me. It was the biggest hurdle that was in my life that I feel like I needed to overcome. And I feel like now life is so much easier for me because I have chosen to live a celibate life. And I say that because right now I feel like I'm living my best life. Excuse me. It's so much easier for me to go with God's plan for my life, even if I don't understand it and even if I don't agree with it. for the simple fact that I've trusted him with something that I didn't want to give up. And it has benefited me, and this is why I feel like I'm living my best life, because I feel like I am completely and totally in God's will most of the time. But anyway, my encouraging scripture is coming from Jeremiah 29 verse 11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This is another reason I feel like I'm living my best life, because I didn't know that scripture years ago. As many times as I've read my Bible over and over and over again, I've read that scripture, but I never knew that it was there. But I know not only that it's there now, but it's a promise that God said to me, just like he said it to Jeremiah, just like he said it to you, if that's what you believe. But I wasn't able to embrace that promise because I didn't know it was there, and I didn't know it was for me, and I was in my own will and not in God's will. But now that I'm in God's will, I feel like I am able to live my best life, and I'm able to actually see this promise come true, because he knows what he has in store for us. We don't always know, but he knows.